Okay, so let's talk about some more materials that you might need. Is some masking tape or washi tape or anything soft that's not too sticky on your paper, because if you use too sticky paper it can rip your sides. So this is painter's tape or masking tape. You can stretch your paper onto your surface that you're painting, or make a nice border or mask out areas that you do not want to have paint on. You can use paper towel or an old rag. I tend to use old washcloths that I no longer need. I mean, obviously they're clean before I use them, but you can see these ones have already some paint on it. It just helps the environment not to use some paper all the time. Then you get porcelain pallets or ceramic pallets. You will see them in those round flower shapes. You can buy them, they're not that expensive, but why buy something when you can get something like this? I bought mine at Pep Home for like 35 rand. So in USD that would be like $2. And yeah, this is actually for making food and snacks and so forth, but this works perfectly for painting. You can even use old plates or so forth, but try to use something that's white or whitish, because you want to see the color that you're going to use. There's nothing wrong in using a plastic palette like this, but as you can see here, your paint will bead up a bit, and it's still workable. It's not like you can't use it, but it's easier to see on the ceramic palette. Also, there's a lot of videos on how you can prepare your plastic surfaces with fine wool or scrubbers. Oh. Sorry guys, I got distracted about the little lamb playing around in the field. So you can prepare that to have a more smooth surface, but I prefer to use something like this. It's very inexpensive and it's easy to wash and clean. So what you need also is 2 containers. It does not have to be specifically like this. This is a collapsible silicone type of holder. I have 2 because that's the biggest thing that you need to know about watercolor. You need 2 containers of water. So either one for your dirty brushes and clean water, or your cold colors and your warm colors, because you do not want to cross-contaminate pigment. Because watercolor is so highly pigmented and the load is so high, it's easily washed off in this water. And when you pick up this water with another color, so say for instance you use a very dark blue and you now try to pick up a yellow like this, it's going to make your palette dirty and contaminate the ink. Like you can see, my palette is not the cleanest at this moment because I used a darker, different color on them, and it will affect the purity of your pigment, which is not something necessarily wrong, but you want to make the best of what you have. So you can get full pans of watercolor like this. This is your White Nights that I bought from Art Savings. You get the one that's half of this, which is called the half pan. So this is a full pan. If you want to see, that's half pan. Then you also get your tubes. They come in different sizes. This is mostly your biggest size. You won't necessarily get a bigger size. There are brands that make bigger sizes than these, but do remember this is quite expensive to have so many pigment. This tube would, if you paint regularly, would last you at least 3 years with this if you paint every weekend. Then you get your smaller tubes. This is a 10mm, and usually this is the sizes you do get is a 5mm and a 15mm. So this is Winsor Newton, they are the OG of watercolors, and Daniel Smith is an American brand. They're very good. Van Gogh is made in the Netherlands. Van Gogh is a student watercolor paint. So what that means is that, going to sneeze, sorry for that, it's the same pigment that you will find in your artist watercolor, but there's more binder in. So your watercolor is usually an artist grade watercolor, is made of pigment, gum arabic, and maybe some glycerin, or some have honey to keep the paints easily reactable with water. But something like Van Gogh will have more of those fillers and glycerine in them, so you get more paint but with less pigment payload. So you get more paint and you can paint more, and it's not a Van Gogh is a very good student grade. I would say if you want to invest, get something like the little pocket palettes like these ones. It's all the colors you do need for this. This is also the one I used for the class that I gave you guys. So you have your primary warm yellow, cold yellow, warm, this is a cold red, a warm red, a cool blue and a warm blue, and these are just some extra ones. So these go for about 500 to 600 rands, but you will get far with this, and you can mix a lot of colors. You even have some convenient green colors, even though these are single pigment colors. So the thing about single pigments and combined pigments, for instance, this is just phthalo blue, this is normal, these are single pigments, but something like this green would be like more than one pigment, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's more when you use this for mixes and you layer a lot of different other pigments on this. So for instance, you use a warm yellow and now you use a cold blue, you will get a muted green. And if you do not recognize that those type of pigments are within the paints that you use, you might get muddy brownish grayish muted colors that you did not expect. You don't understand, you're giving up, my colors suck, because that's not what you wanted. Or maybe you did not want the vibrant colors that you're getting. What now? So do try to start with mixing your own colors first to get a hang of how color mixing work in watercolor pigments, because it's not going to be your normal red, blue and yellow to mix green, orange and or purple, whatever. You do have different tonal value. I don't want to say tonal because I do not know the correct terminology. That's been, was taught that a long time ago, but yes. So today I'm going to use this mostly for us, because and you can see that something different. If we're talking about watercolors, these are your Western type of watercolors. You also get Eastern type of watercolors like the Gansai Tambi. They tend to have larger blocks or pans like these. If I can get one out now. They're quite large. They're not as deep as the others, but what I like about these is they can easily take your brushes, especially your large softer brushes, and keep them from damaging, because brushes are expensive. You don't want to ruin your brushes easily. The Gansai Tambi is made slightly different than the Western watercolors. It's still gum arabic and stuff, but there's other binders in them, and they're a bit more opaque and more, it looks more milky, if I can say that. So for this, that would be the color chart. What's nice with color palettes is to have a little chart, because if you can see that these four look dark, you don't know necessarily which is which. When you have a little paper like this, you can see the different colors that you have. Okay. Another thing that you can use beforehand with your masking tape is masking fluid like this. It's like a type of glue that you put on the paper that is not supposed to damage your paper, and you can get fine lines. I tend to not like using it just when I know I really need highlights. What you also can get before you invest in a larger palette or stuff is get something like a watercolor chart. I got this one for free from Art Savings Club. It's a dot card with all the Winsor and Newton colors that they have. So they put little dots of paint for you, and you can swatch the paints. So you can see all the pigment information, of the transparent or the opaque. If you want to know more about stuff like paint details, go watch In Liquid Colors by Denise Soden, Dr. Otto Carno, Eve Bolt. They have very good channels in explaining them from watercolors. I can't give you all the details that they do, because they do a very good job of explaining it. Yeah, so these are the Winsor Newton colors. Like you see, some have very little payoff, others are very vibrant and bright. Like this is the fluorescent color, that you won't see on screen how bright this is. There's neon fluorescence color in that's super bright. It's fugitive, meaning that will not be permanent. It's going to fade, it will not stay that bright. A lot of reds and yellows tend to have that. Also some purples that are mixed with reds. So yeah, look at something like that if you want to make artwork that is archival. Daniel Smith also have these little boxes of cards with dot cards that you can use to see if you want to buy certain colors. These are the Primatech colors, because Primatechs are quite expensive. They're made of real, not all pigments are real, made in the lab or not, but I mean these are more expensive than your normal water pigments. So if you want to test out some colors to see which ones you like, that's how I bought this little packet, to see which colors, because it depends. This tube was about 280, and it can go all the way up to like 500 rand. So yes, these are the dot cards. So I would say if you really want to spend some money on getting a good palette, and you are scared of the investment, do try to get something like this or these color palettes or samples to check. So these are my watercolor palettes. These are the metal ones. So this is Roman small, it's my full pans, and then I have a lot of tiny half pans of pigments and paints. I am a slave to buying pigments. Do not follow this if you want to, but because this is my hobby and what I really like to enjoy and do. I also have little swatch cards in these, show me the pigments, and I mark my full pans or my pans with pigment information, also the brand name, so I know what to use when I have to replace them. If you want to work in metallics, there's nothing better than your fine tech palette. I've tried many types of watercolor pigments. Nothing works like these. Here's a swatch of what I did with them. They're quite opaque. they do not rub off, and I really like these. So if you want to use metallics in your watercolors, go for your fine tech palette. Yes, that's it. Let's start painting.